On a night in 1969, Sid Hurwich sat in Toronto as a line of police officers filed in through the front door. The officers followed Sid into his dining room where they took seats or crowded around the table. Underneath the table was what the men had come to see, the machine that Sid claimed could freeze time. Once they were in the room, Sid alerted everyone that the device was active. He then asked Officer Bolton, one of the officers in charge, to place his service revolver on the table. Officer Bolton later gave his account of the strange event. It was under the table, the device, whatever it was, and there was a bedspread over the table. He froze my service revolver. You couldn't pull the trigger. You couldn't lift it up off the table, and even on the table you couldn't pull the trigger. After Bolton, Sid surprised the group further. He told them, "Now take a look at your watches." I remember one of them said, "When did this happen?" And I said, "The minute you walked through that door. You walked in there about 25 minutes ago. Now look at your watches. You're late about 25 minutes." As the security officers filed out of his home, Sid's wife overheard one of them suggest that the army should be told about the device. "That was the first time it entered my mind for war or army purposes or anything like that." Sid's device had seemingly frozen time. But who was this guy? And what did the device really do? And why hasn't everyone heard of it? In 1950, he sold his business and went into a comfortable retirement at the age of 36. But he never stopped tinkering. 19 years later, when he heard about a rash of bank robberies in town, he believed that he could help to stop them. It just clicked what to do, Hurwich says. I picked up the phone to the police. I knew a lot of the boys, and I told them I think I can't stop those thieveries in about half an hour. Within a week Sid had assembled a working model to test his theory. That's when he invited over the officers to show them firsthand. There isn't much detail available on what happened to the device directly after this incident, but it pops back into the news into 1977. According to an article in a British publication called Foreign Report, Sid Hurwich's time-altering machine ended up in Israel where it was used by the military. The device sends out electronic rays to alter the natural composition of electronic fields and centers of gravity of weapons, instrument dials and mechanical devices. Using the Hurwich principle, there was no reason why the new beams could not reach and disable tanks, ground-to-ground missiles and complete radar systems. The beams could also be tacked together to form a screen that would make whole zones safe from bombs and missiles. So why have we never heard of this thing? Hurwich has insisted that his device is not really an invention. He says that he simply took one of the oldest basic principles of electricity and put it to a different use. While he also specified that it can be aimed and its range depends on its power source and it will only work on objects that carry a current. He won't specify which principle or get into details in just how the device works. Drive. Howard White, a Toronto consulting engineer. It sounds to me like a very high-intensity electromagnetic field that he is able to project, but I don't know how he is generating it. But anything's possible. Hurwich never patented the device. "It's so easy to copy," he says. "I've copied things from patents. Just make a few minor changes where they'd have a tough time in court proving I'd broken the patent.